everybody has the book with them. Okay. Preface. The Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas or Bengali Vaishnavas are mostly followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of whom the six Goswamis of Vrindavan are direct disciples. Therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoibe Akuti Kabe Hama Bujabo Se Jugala Piriti. When I am eager to understand the literature given by the Goswamis, then I shall be able to understand the transcendental loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to bestow upon human society the benediction of the science of Krishna. The most exalted of all the activities of Lord Krishna are his pastimes of conjugal love with the gopis. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the best of gopis. Therefore, to understand the mission of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and follow in his footsteps, one must very seriously follow in the footsteps of six Goswamis: Shri Roop Sanatan Bhatt Raghunath, Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatt Das Raghunath. So, preface has two sections in NOI. The first section is about introducing the author himself, Srila Rupa Goswami. Why are we even discussing about his book? Why it is important for us? Where does he stand? How does all these things happen? So, introduction to the author. Because uh, we get motivated when we know about the glories of the author, the importance of the author. And the second section of preface is going to talk about the glories of this book or introduction to the book. Okay. So the author and book, both of these things will get covered. If you see, there is a very interesting way with Srila Prabhupada, like, no, and in fact, if we closely see all the Vedic scriptures, there's a very nice way of, starting the preface. I mean, if you just see the way, Prabhupada's first line, Krishna consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. That is the first line. And then everything else is explained in line with that first line. Okay. If you open Srimad Bhagavatam, the preface is about what's the need of the human society, and then it connects Srimad Bhagavatam to the need of the human society. So that's the beauty of Vedic scriptures. They're very conclusive. Even to begin with, they are conclusive. Each and every line is very conclusive. That's the power of descending process. Generally, if we are trying to write a book, we'll start with a preface, we'll start with our feelings and so on and so forth. If you read some books outside, some novels, they also have a preface. Uh, so, but then, it is enlightening when we see the preface of a book which is coming as part of the descending process, in Guru Parampara. It starts with conclusive statements and then everything is substantiated. That's the Vedic way of introducing a scripture. You come to the point straight and then you expand on it. Okay. That's the way. If you see Srila Prabhupada purports and so many things, he says something and then expands on it. Even Srila Prabhupada's lectures, if we closely hear, he says a point and then expands and comes back to that point. All of you have observed that point? All of you have observed. He is not beating around the bush, technically speaking. He just comes to the point and then explains it. I mean, it's just doesn't states a point and then moves to other point. He states a point, explains it, moves to the other point. That's the beauty of the descending process. So it talks about the book and the author. So first it is establishing um, the knowledge about the author. Vedic knowledge is divided into three parts. Can anyone tell what are those three parts?
Prabhuji, is it Smriti, Purana?
Shruti and Smriti, these are two types of Vedic literature. Uh, it is called Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. Sambandha means establishing the knowledge of relationship. Okay. Then there is Abhideya. Once the relationship is established, what do you do? And when you do something in that relationship, what do you achieve? That is Prayojan. Okay. All Vedic knowledge is divided into three parts, Okay. Just a sec. Phone of my niece had rang. Okay. So first, if you closely see in this first section of preface, Prabhupada is establishing our sambandha with Rupa Goswami, Okay. Who are, I mean, we call ourselves as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And the whole Gaudiya Vaishnava movement is happening under the direction of Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami. Okay. And what should we do now that we understand what is Rupa Goswami bringing to the table? To understand the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and follow in his footsteps, one must very seriously follow in the footsteps of six Goswamis. Means he's making a point that if you want to, if so, basically Radha and Krishna, okay, whom we are attempting to worship, uh, they are actually best understood by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, only understood by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is best understood by the six Goswamis. And amongst the six Goswamis is Rupa Goswami, who has actually captured the essence of his instructions. Actually, Srila Rupa Goswami did that. Let me just recite the mantra of pranam mantra of Rupa Goswami. You want to hear the pranam mantra of Rupa Goswami? Okay. Which just goes to show what Rupa Goswami's position is actually. It comes in Gaur Ganodesha Deepika. Okay. So I'll just quickly cite that mantra. It's called Shri Rupa Manjari Khyata Yasid Vrindavane Pure Sadhya Rupakhya Goswami Bhutva Prakatatam Iyat. Says that she who was known in Vrindavan as Rupa Manjari has now appeared as Rupa Goswami. So we'll spend some time on Rupa Goswami. It's important to understand him. He's the author of this book. So Rupa Goswami is who he is. Rupa Manjari. Okay, and his position in spiritual world is that he Lalita is one of the chief uh, sakhis of Srimati Radharani, and Rupa Manjari is the foremost sakhi of Lalita Devi. She's the leading sakhi of Lalita Devi. Therefore, Rupa Goswami is the chief amongst the Goswamis in Gaur Leela. Okay, that's his position. Okay, and there's a family tree also of Rupa Goswami. Okay, I thought it's very interesting to uh, understand this. I mean, it will not come in your exam though, uh, but I think it will be good for us to get some hang of the family history. Even Bhagavatam is filled up of family histories. So uh, when we discuss family or devotees, also Krishna Katha. Okay, so it's so interesting. It's purifying. Okay, so Jagat Guru Sarvagya, he was the He was the one of the Bharadwaj Gotra Brahmin. He was born in some 12th century. Okay, so maybe some 1100s or something. He had basically son called Aniruddha. Okay, and Anirudh had two sons. His name was Rupeshwar and Harihar. Okay, they were big landlords apparently, and so very rich background. But Anirudh's sons Rupeshwar and Harihar could not inherit any of these land holdings. Rupeshwar renounced everything and he moved to the mountains, whereas Padmanabh he moved to Bengal, and that's where the Bengal thing started for them. Actually, they were belonging to Karnataka, okay, but one of the like no in this way like no uh, Rupeshwar's son, Padmanabh, okay, he moved to the Bengal, okay, and he took residence in Naihati, one of the villages on the banks of Ganges. So Rupeshwar's son was Padmanabh. Padmanabh had basically five sons, and the youngest of them was Mukunda. Okay, so Mukunda, he was the one who had a son called Kumardev, and Kumardev had several sons, but amongst them three were the main: Sanatan, Roop, and Anupam. These were the three brothers. So that's a family tree. Jagat Guru Sarvagya, and from him Anirudh, from Anirudh Rupeshwar, from Rupeshwar then he had Padmanabh. Padmanabh had five sons. One of the son was youngest was Mukunda. Mukunda had another son. His name was you know uh, Kumar Dev, and Kumar Dev had three sons, Sanatan, Rupa, and Anupam. So his house was in the village of Batla in Chandradweep. Okay, so apparently it comes in Bangladesh on that part of it. So that's the brief history of Rupa Goswami in his spiritual realm, and when he appeared in this world, how did he appear? And all of us know that no, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Rup Goswami once in Ramkeli. Okay, Ramkeli, he met him once. Ramkeli is currently in Bangladesh, and he met them there. And after he met them there, that time they were under the Muslim rule, okay, of Nawab Malik and all. So they were kind of serving. Rup and Sanatan were serving the Muslim ruler Nawab Shah, and but somehow or other in that kingdom, when Mahaprabhu came with his followers, Nawab Shah was very worried. But there was one one devotee of Lord Chaitanya, and his name was Keshav Khatri. He kind of uh, adjusted the situation with Nawab Shah, and he told, you don't have to worry too much about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's a very simple fellow, and no, he's just coming with few followers. It's okay. And that was a very important point, because of that, Rupa and Sanatan could meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Ramkeli. And after that, they resigned. We know they got mercy of Lord Chaitanya, and they resigned and they moved on. And then uh, Rupa Goswami met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prayag. Okay. This was the second meeting of Lord Chaitanya with Rupa Goswami. It was in Prayag. In Prayag, Lord Chaitanya, somehow Sanatan Goswami could not come because he was being arrested by Nawab Hussain Shah. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave full faith and full comfort to Rupa Goswami that Sanatan Goswami will also very shortly escape. You don't worry about it. And actually, he did escape. But at that point of time, Rupa Goswami was with Anupam, his other brother. So they met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prayag, and in Prayag, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed them for 10 days. Okay, particularly Rupa Goswami instructed him for 10 days, and the essence of those 10 days instructions is called Nectar of Devotion. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So nectar of devotion is the essence of the instructions which um, Lord Chaitanya gave to Rupa Goswami in those 10 days at Prayag. Okay. And the essence of nectar of devotion is nectar of instruction. So it is like nectar of nectar. Nectar of instruction is like nectar of devotion. So nectar of instructions. Therefore, it's like although 11 verses, but nectar of instruction is a very. We'll come to that. What's the glory of nectar of instruction? We'll come to that. But that's Rupa Goswami. That's Rupa Goswami. That's why if Prabhupada is just not mentioning that point for the sake of mentioning it. It actually means that Rupa Goswami is the most leading Goswami in amongst the six Goswamis, and actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his teachings and what he discussed with Ramanand Rai, everything to Rupa Goswami. So he got the best of everything. And therefore he is the most. So he understands it, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to basically make us understand Radha Krishna. So Radha Krishna, uh, okay, uh, then to understand that we need mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To understand the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we need the mercy of six Goswamis, and basically amongst them, we need the mercy of Rupa Goswami. That's why we are also called Rupanugas. We are called Rupanugas, followers of Rupa Goswami. So that's the Sambandh Abhidaya, our relation with our great, 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 great grandfather, Rupa Goswami. Okay. And his connection with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his appearance in this material world and his glories. And the Abhidaya is what? We follow. We follow in the footsteps of six Goswamis, which means we read his literatures very nicely and try our best, give our best to apply those teachings in our lives. And then what we get is we get to understand the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we get to understand the science of Krishna. That's the prayojan. Makes sense? This part of preface is making sense. Anybody has any questions, any thoughts? Is that okay? Can we move ahead? Even Prabhupada's preface is so amazing. Prabhupada's preface is also so amazing. Okay. And it's the next part of preface is even more sweet, even more very, very enlightening. So we'll read that. Okay. Okay. So now we'll come to the author part of the preface. Oh, sorry, the book part of the preface. Okay. Srila Rupa Goswami was the leader of all the Goswamis, and to guide our activities, he gave us this Upadeshamrit. Okay, so he is the leader of all Goswamis, and to guide our activities, to guide our activities, he gave us this Upadeshamrit to follow the nectar of instruction. Actually, Rupa Goswami has written a lot of literature. There are some 16 books which are considered to be like his heavy work. Brihad, Lagu Bhagavatamrita, and there are like a lot of these books are there. And Upadeshamrit is like is like condensed version of you know his instructions. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left behind the 8 verses known as Shiksha Ashtakam, Rupa Goswami gave us Upadeshamrit so that we may become pure Vaishnavas. So that we may become pure Vaishnavas. Okay. Now we'll understand. The preface is going to give us the insight into the what this book is all about, how this book is structured. So point is that no spiritual life, there is no beating. Every line of Prabhupada is having so much of sense, so much of sense. Okay, so much of sense. In all spiritual affairs. Now you see again, no Prabhupada states a line. Now it's another subject matter. Now Prabhupada is opening. Huh? Another subject matter. What does Prabhupada says? In all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control his mind and senses. Such a wonderful line. Okay, such a wonderful. And then Prabhupada expands on this line. So this is the way, Prabhupada does. Uh, what does Prabhupada say? Unless one controls his mind and senses, one cannot make any advancement in spiritual life. Everyone within this material world is engrossed in the modes of passion and ignorance. One must promote himself to the platform of goodness, Sattvagun, by following the instructions of Rupa Goswami, and then everything concerning how to make further progress will be revealed. Okay. So this is the first aspect of nectar of instruction. There are two aspects or two key teachings which come from nectar of instructions. The first key teaching which comes is, how can one control one's mind and senses, because that is like a necessary condition to become pure devotees and go back to Godhead. Is it sufficient? No, it is not sufficient. If I just think of controlling my mind and senses, that is not sufficient, but it is necessary condition. It's a necessary condition, because if we are not having our mind and senses in control, we'll not be able to focus our mind in the devotional service of Lord. Uh, we'll not be able to work out on our consciousness. We'll not be able to see the weeds growing in our heart. All these things can happen only if one is in control of one's mind and senses. You may have observed that no, sometimes our spiritual life just keeps going and going and going and going in days and months. You know, okay. And what's the key to control mind and senses? Elevate one to goodness. In passion and ignorance, one cannot control one's mind and senses. One will be controlled by the minds and senses. Okay, therefore Prabhupada makes that point of promoting oneself to Sattvaguna. Even Lord Krishna talks about that in Bhagavad Gita. When Arjun asks him that, no, why no, we end up doing something, we know it is not good for us, but still we end up doing that, and then why we are doing it, and then Krishna says it is lust only, Arjuna. Which, and then Krishna gives the solution, what? Regulate your senses, regulate your mind and senses. So in Krishna consciousness we don't get differing opinions, Lord Krishna. So that's the beauty of it. But the way they present it appeals to the same mind, though instructions are same, but it just convinces our intelligence in so many different ways. That's the beauty of Vedic scriptures. Okay, it's the beauty of Vedic scriptures. So the same point Rupa Goswami says, and I mean, the initial verses are all about that, how to promote oneself from passion and ignorance to goodness. That's what the initial verses are all about. Then we come to the second part of coverage of nectar of instruction. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of follower. So if any case you are thinking, if just by controlling your mind and senses I can grow, no, that is okay. But the real advancement will come when we are having the right attitude. So we are not just talking of artificially controlling mind and senses. We are talking something more over here. Okay. A follower of Krishna consciousness movement should become a perfect Goswami. Vaishnavas are generally known as Goswamis. In Vrindavan, this is the title by which director of each temple is known. So Prabhupada is saying that no, they should become perfect Goswami. So Goswami means one who controls one mind and senses, and his mind and senses once controlled, then what happens? They are being favorably engaged in Lord Krishna's service. Okay. One who wants to become a perfect devotee of Krishna must become a Goswami. That's there. Go means the senses and Swami means the master. Unless one controls his senses and mind, one cannot become a Goswami. To achieve the highest success in life by becoming a Goswami and then a pure devotee of Lord, one must follow the instructions known as Upadeshamrit, which has been given by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami has given many other books such as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vidgadha Madhava, Lalit Madhav, but Upadeshamrit constitutes the first instruction for the neophyte devotees. Okay. One should follow these instructions very strictly. Then it will be easier to make one's life successful. Hare Krishna. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. September 20th, 1975, Vishwaroop Mahotsav, Krishna Balram Mandir, Raman Reti, Vrindavan, India. So, like Prabhupada established our sambandh with Rupa Goswami, what should we do with that sambandh with Rupa Goswami? What is the result of such following of instructions? Similarly, then Prabhupada builds our sambandh with Upadeshamrit. He tells what this Upadeshamrit is all about, why it is relevant for us, and then what does it give when we properly follow this book. Okay, so that makes sense. Any questions on preface? So there are two things: controlling one's mind and senses and having a proper attitude. Okay, these are the two things which we'll see is getting discussed throughout Nectar of Instructions. Any questions on this so far, on the preface? Am I making sense, or am I not making sense at all, or am I making hazy sense? uh, is it clear?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Clear, Prabhu.
Absolutely.
Clear, Prabhu.
Making sense.
Making sense? Are we going too fast, or are
No,
we going too slow? Are we okay with the speed? Please
Okay,
let me know.
praise.
we are in
Oh,
good,
praise, Prabhu.
good place.
We are good. All of us are good. Okay.
Prabhuji.
Some of you have switched off your videos. Uh, if possible, I'll not push you, but if you can, probably switch on your video. Okay. Okay. So with this, we have completed the preface. Congratulations. We have completed the preface, and now we'll move to the uh, text one. But before that, we'll do something. What we'll do is we'll just skim through the translation of all these 11 verses. Thankfully, only 11 verses, right? It will not take much time, but that will give you a gist of what we discussed in preface. Okay, so then you'll be able to connect everything. Okay, then it will just go, linkages in our mind will be getting established. Okay, so I'll go through translation by translation. I'll just read the translation at this stage. Okay, and then we'll come back to text one. Is that okay? Making sense? All of
Yes.
you are with me?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Okay. Text 1. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. That is text 1. So, controlling one's mind and senses. Text 2. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. Fifth, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And sixth, being greedy for mundane achievements. You know, text 2. Now we'll move to text 3. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service: being enthusiastic, endeavoring with confidence, being patient, acting according to the regulative principles such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna, abandoning the association of non devotees, and the following in the footsteps of previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Making sense? We'll move to text 4. Offering gifts and charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad, and offering prasad are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. If you see, slowly it is transitioning from the control of mind and senses, to the realm of, finer dealings, it will keep getting finer and finer as you progress. Okay, so that's the beauty of text 5. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation and is engaged in worshipping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. And then we move to text 6. Being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee's having a body, born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. According to the ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee, but despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the waters of Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of bubbles, foam, and mud. The Ganges waters do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. So, till text 6, from 1 to 6, it is about anartha nivritti. This talks of devotees like us. All of us fall in this category. The fact that I'm teaching you this, don't think that I'm, like it is, I'm struggling myself, okay? But it is all for devotees like us. All of us fall in this category till verse 6. It's about the sadhakas. These are the 6 verses for the sadhakas, for them to overcome. And there are many finer points. You will see there are so many finer points in these verses. Okay, but these are for sadhakas like us. From verses 7th, it starts beyond another. So basically, when one follows these 6 verses, it places one at the platform of nishtha. Okay, it places one at the platform of nishtha. So you'll see the glimpse of anarth nivritti and nishtha, one devotee also, nishtha stage also, in these 6 verses. Okay, nishtha means one is steady in devotional service. One is not someday like a stock market, a Bombay Stock Exchange or a Nifty, someday it is like 500 points up, the next day it is like 800 points down. And so these first six verses will make us like a FD, a fixed devotee, and not a fixed deposit, but a fixed devotee, stable devotee. Okay, uh, we'll discuss about that. From verses 7, we can just read those verses, but not for us. Don't worry. Okay, so it is beyond our syllabus. Text 7 is about ruchi. Okay, it's about ruchi. So after Anartha and Nishta comes ruchi. Okay, let's read that. The holy name, character, pastimes, and activities of Krishna are all transcendently sweet, like sugar candy. Okay. Although the tongue of one afflicted by the jaundice of avidya cannot taste anything sweet, it is wonderful that simply by chanting these sweet names every day, a natural relish awakens within his tongue, and his disease is gradually destroyed at the root. So uh, it's ruchi. It's a taste. You're getting this point, right? It talks of the taste. Even the verse talks about the taste of sugar candy. So it's about ruchi, taste. And then it moves to asakti in text 8. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, Golok Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Somewhat Raga Nuga Bhakti. Okay, that flavor you will see over here. Hmm? Okay. Of course, we are serving Krishna under the guidance of Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Mm, uh, but this is talking of very confidential pastimes of Lord, serving in a very confidential way to Lord. Okay. Text 9. So all these things are like, no, they just keep talking about, you know, uh, now it will go into the realm of bhava and prema, text 9 onwards. So please wear your seat belts, brace for the impact and the spiritual reality. So the holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathura Puri is transcendental forest of Sri Vrindavan because of Krishna's Ras Leela pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was a site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokul, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radha Kund, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill? So, if you really want to pack your bags and go to Radha Kund and Govardhan, please check whether we are at the level. We have cleared the previous no 8 verses, Vacho Vegam, Manasakot Vegam, Jiva Vegam. But this is the level of bhava and prema. We can appreciate the level of, and we can only feel sorry that we don't have that taste. Okay, but we want to aspire for that. We want to aspire for that taste. We want to aspire for that attachment to Lord's name, Lord's qualities, Lord's pastimes, Lord's form, and ultimately Lord's dham, which is being revealed over here. Okay, Srimati Radharani ki jai. Text 10 gets even more amazing. In the Shastra, it is said that all types of fruitive workers, he who is advanced in knowledge of higher values of life, is favored by Supreme Lord Hari. Out of many such people who are advanced in knowledge, one who is practically liberated by virtue of his knowledge may take to devotional service. He is superior to others. However, one who has actually attained prema, okay. So this is that asakti and prema I was talking about, right? Text 10. Pure love of Krishna is superior to him. The gopis are exalted above all the advanced devotees because they are totally dependent upon Sri Krishna, the transcendental cowherd boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. Her Kund is, again, it comes back to Radha Kund, Her Kund is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis. Who then will not reside at Radha Kund? Rupa Goswami is testing us, what we'll say. Oh, and in the spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings, aprakrit bhav, render loving service to the divine couple Sri Sri Radha Govinda, who perform their Ashtakaliya Leela, their eternal eightfold daily pastimes. They go to different places. There is a time when they start in Vrinda Kund and all, there are eightfold daily pastimes, Art Peher, you know. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radha Kund are the most fortunate people in the universe. Text 11. Of the many objects of favored delight and of all the lovable damsels of Rajbhumi, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love, and in every respect, her divine kund is described by great sages as similarly dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radha Kund is very rarely attained, even by the great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotees to attain. If one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. Okay, with this we complete the 11 verses of the summary of the Nectar of Instructions. Okay, so, so we'll come back to text 1. Okay, where we belong. Okay, so you see, how Nectar of Instructions, why it is called Nectar. It's not just a poetic, way of, some eulogizing. No, it is actually nectar because it has nectar of instructions for the most new devotees, neophyte devotees, actually, to the most advanced devotees. Everybody is covered in nectar of instructions. Everybody. Okay, so imagine the power of Rupa Goswami. He can condense everything and give something which is take home for everyone, people like us, and the most liberated souls, the Nitya Siddhas and the eternal associates of Lord. They also relish. They can also relish this. Okay, that's the beauty of nectar of instruction. But don't worry, we don't have to worry too much about 7 to maybe for exam perspective you can eat, uh, uh, but then it is there's a lot to apply in the first few verses for us. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Okay, all of us are good. Can we start with text 1 now, or you want a break, a bio break, a chemical break, or a physical break, or this break, or that? Fine, we are good. Can we go ahead?
Yes,
Yes.
Lord.
Yes.
Yes,
All of you are with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Haribol.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, amazing. Text 1. Okay, so please recite uh, with me, okay, or maybe after me if it is comfortable for you. Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam
Vacho
Vacho
Vegam
Vegam Manasa
Manasa
Krodha
Vegam
Vegam
Jivva Vegam Udaropastha Vegam
Jiva
Vegam
Vegam
Udarapastha
Bhatta Vegam
Vegam
Etan Vegan Yo Vishaheta Dhira
Etan
Etan
Vegan
Vegan
Vishaheta
Vegan
Sarvam Api Mam Prithvim Sashishyat.
Sarvam
Sarvamapi Mam
Sarvamapimam Prithvim Sasya
Okay. Vacha of speech, Vegam urge, Manasaha of the mind, Krodha of anger, Vegam urge, Jivva of the tongue, Vegam urge, Udaropastha of the belly and genitals, Vegam urge, Etan these, Vegan urges, Yaha whoever, Vishaheta can tolerate, Dhiraha sober, Sarvam all, Api certainly, Imam this, Prithvim world, Saha that personality, Shishyat can make disciples. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. When we read this text one, we may think uh, by doing this, one day we can become spiritual master. uh, we can become a spiritual master and have disciples all over the world. Okay, don't worry about that, don't even bother about it. Okay, it is, uh, we don't have to take tension of that, uh, we may, uh, while the verse is saying so, which definitely it does mean that one is, by doing so one becomes uh, a Goswami, and one becomes the spiritual master, uh, and he's qualified to accept disciples all over the world. But our goal is not that. Our goal as sadhakas is not to make disciples all over the world. Our goal is not to become spiritual master. Our goal is not to become guru. Okay, what is our goal? Our goal is to become steady devotees, steady and stable devotees. That is our goal. Okay, that's a very nice goal to have. We don't want to become a, a a rocket bomb, which is like there and part it goes up and then blows apart. Okay, okay. So we want to become stable devotees. Okay, we want to become stable Vaishnavas. That is the gift of verse one. How do we become stable devotees? Do you agree with me? Is that a nice goal to have? Okay. Okay. No, we don't need to have a goal of that. Okay, tomorrow I'll become, no, no, I'll become a Diksha Guru. Sometimes, we may think like that, but we don't have to bother about it at all. Okay. We just want to become stable and steady devotees in Krishna consciousness. That is it. Okay. That's our goal. In that light, when we understand this verse 1, we'll be able to make sense of it. Yes, certainly, if one becomes stable and steady, uh, uh, at some point of time, you know one may be, by the mercy of guru, become a guru, but not, that's not our goal. That's not the goal we have in our devotional life. That's a weed. Okay, we don't want to become gurus. We don't want to rule over people, right? That itself is a demand of the mind. Okay, manasa vegam, So we don't want to fall prey to that. Okay, but it's a very, very powerful verse, and it will give us insight into how can we become more and more stable in our Krishna consciousness. Okay, okay. With that in our mind, we'll start with the purport. We'll not go through the complete purport, okay, because it's a very long purport. Okay, but whatever we are discussing is from the purport only, and we'll keep referring it back to the purport. Okay, and I want that all of you should go through this purport very, very nicely. But in this class, uh, we will we will understand what is there, the structure of purport of Srila Prabhupada, and how does it fit into our goal to become a steady devotee, a stable devotee. Okay, now it all starts with a very nice setting. It all starts with a setting of Parikshit Maharaj asking a question to Sukdev Goswami. uh, Another purport is where it starts is that, no, and he asks a question uh, about atonement. But before that, what happens is, let's understand this background of why Prabhupada is even starting with that. Why Prabhupada is talking about this Parikshit Maharaj question. In Shrimad Bhagavatam, in fifth canto, Sukdev Goswami, even Bhagavatam is a very, very amazing progression of spiritual topics. It's a very nice progression of spiritual topics. In fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, uh, I think somebody is unmuted. I don't know. If you know about that, Sukdev Goswami talks about the hellish planets. You know, After he describes the activities of Jad Bharat uh, and everything, then he describes the 24 hellish planets. And this description is really, really, really horrible. you know when one does a particular sinful activity, one goes in this sinful planet, and when one does this sinful activity, one goes to that hellish planet. When one goes does this sinful activity, one goes to you know, uh, eating meat, any illicit activity, disrespecting elders, disrespecting guests. There are like customized hellish planets being established for the entertainment of such lawbreakers. Um, when the description is so horrible that only if a person is faithless or insensitive, one will not feel fearful. One will actually start feeling fearful of, there's a planet, hellish planet, for even killing mosquitoes. Once I read that, I really became very fearful of you know, doing this when you see a mosquito. Okay, so uh, we get concerned about ourselves. Parikshit Maharaj became concerned about everyone around the world. He started thinking, what is the hope? How can I, just like a sensitive devotee, just like all of us, like, sometimes have that feeling, we see in the life of any sensitive devotee, when they see somebody suffering, they can't take it. They're not so hard hearted. Devotees are generally soft hearted. They're soft hearted, but at the same time, they are also practicing austerities, so they are like balanced. They are not completely hard hearted, and they are not like flow like a water, and not having any discipline in one's life. That also not devotees having. Devotees balanced. Particularly the devotees like Parikshit Maharaj, they become very concerned when they hear. So this horrible description was so this thing that even Parikshit Maharaj became very disturbed after he heard this description of hellish planets. He became very, very, you know, uh, disturbed, and he started like, no, he told that there should be some way out. How can people avoid this suffering of going through these hellish conditions and all? And he put that question across to whom? Sukhdev Goswami. Uh, so typically, let's say if somebody is a thief, and the example of thief is there in purport also. So uh, one does a theft, okay, and let's say somehow or other, there are different categories of people. The person does theft and is not even guilty about it, and he just continues to do theft irrespective of seeing, hearing, and sometimes even experiencing. He doesn't leave. There are some levels of people when they do sinful activities or do something wrong, they become sorry, but the reason to become sorry uh, is the fear of the reaction of that wrong. It's more about that fear of suffering of that wrong activity, which is making them feel sorry about it, which is making them no do anything. So let's say if somebody gets to know that no, if somebody is performing theft, uh, a crude example, you will not be punished if, let's say, we tell to the thief, if you return back that money to the person whom you have taken this money from, or you may return more money as an interest, as a fine, and then it will be okay, you know and then you will be forgiven for the theft punishment which you are supposed to get from the theft. Something similar, Sukhdev Goswami told Parikshit Maharaj. He told what you should do is, you have done something wrong, and if you're fearful of that reaction of suffering, do the opposite. Okay, do the opposite, either in the same quantity or the opposite quantity, and that he called is atonement. Okay, you've done something wrong, please go ahead and do something pious. Okay, that is going to help you. Okay, you will get, no you will be saved from the sufferings. Okay, of course we know that the pious reactions never nullify sinful reaction, but there's something more to this whole conversation. Okay. When Parikshit Maharaj heard this point, he told that I am not with you on this. No, I beg to differ. You know, and that is where his his his, his point of Prabhupada's purport starts with his point. What he's saying is that, no, if, let's say, a person is doing a theft and he's fearful of that result of getting caught in that theft, and he's being caught, he may do that thing, atonement, but what is the use of that atonement? There's no use of that. Okay, and that's where sixth canto starts. Story of Ajamila. Ajamil was a very, very sinful person, extremely sinful person. Of course, he was a very pious person before, but by the bad association of a prostitute, he became a sinful person, and sinful to such a degree that he, like, no, he started breaking all the principles and killing people, looting people, cheating people, everything, you name it, and he was doing it. Okay, so, and fortunately he had his son Narayan. Okay, which was like, he named him Narayan, and not for the sake of nullifying his sinful reactions, not for the heck of fear of his future suffering, which he knew he is going to have it, but he was not chanting the holy names of Narayan with that mentality to nullify the sinful reactions which he was getting, he's going to get. Therefore, his chanting became offenseless. It came to the stage of Namabhas, and all his sinful reactions were being cleared without his knowledge. And not only that, uh, he was being elevated to the platform of devotional life. His devotional Sakriti got built. It is not that his sinful reactions were erased, his devotional Sukriti was also built. And at the time of, and it was Lord's arrangement. One may think that why he didn't start devotional service, why he had to wait till death. But it was Lord's arrangement that that conversation between Vishnu Dutas and Yamdutas happened. All of you know about this story of Ajamila. Somewhere you have heard all the stories. And then finally, he immediately, uh, because his Sukriti was like, and the right time came, he immediately took up to the devotional service. Therefore, then Sukdev Goswami establishes that even piety is not going to help a conditioned soul. It is the devotional service which is going to rectify the root cause of our suffering. Okay, that's the background of this. This whole section. Essentially there are four sections to the verse one purport, and this is the first section. Okay, atonement. What is a real atonement? Okay, so then Srila Prabhupada is now going to start on this, and he starts talking about, you know why do people Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukhdev Goswami that, I mean, your solution that no counteract the negative by doing the same positive thing, opposite positive thing. You have been looting people, give things in charity. You have been doing this, do the opposite. And no, you have been killing people, start adopting an orphanage. All this. So all that mundane calculation is not going to be helpful. That's Parikshit Maharaj's verdict. Okay, and actually Sukhdev Goswami was testing him. He was testing Parikshit Maharaj whether he'll agree to this solution or not. Okay, sometimes spiritual master tests the disciple. Okay, uh, even Krishna tested Arjuna in different ways. You know, even uh, we see that this test happening. Even Krishna tested gopis. When they came uh, in Vrindavan, when gopis came, they left their homes and they came, and then Krishna started telling them Upadesh that no, you all are housewives. No, you should do your duties. You should remember me. You should keep me in your heart, and keeping me in your heart, you should do everything in being in consciousness of me. Something similar of what we but that was the not the level of gopis. That is our aspirational level, but the level of gopis was much higher. But he just wanted to test, you know and then gopis told, forget about it. No, we are like, no, it's just you and nothing else. Okay, and nothing else. That was a level of gopis. We can't imitate, of course, such kind of levels. Okay, but but that's the point. So Sukhdev Goswami became very happy. Parikshit Maharaj had cleared the test. Okay. Prabhupada also used to test his disciples. Sometimes he used to say something which was wrong. And then Prabhupada disciples used to say, yes, Prabhupada, yes. And then Prabhupada, no. And then Prabhupada used to correct that. Like once I heard that Prabhupada was going through, in one of the morning walks, he was passing through one of the cities in US, and he saw a big house, and he told, we can engage this big house in service of Krishna. And the devotees said, yes, Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada moved ahead, and they moved ahead and then moved to the next place. And that house had a big garden, one house. And we can engage these flowers in this garden in Krishna's service. And devotees said, yes, Prabhupada. And then they moved ahead, and then Prabhupada saw some very big cars in one of the houses. And then Prabhupada told, we can engage these cars in Krishna's service. They told, yes, Prabhupada. Okay. And then Prabhupada moved a bit ahead, and then a dog came barking, and towards devotees. And he was like, and then Prabhupada told, we can engage this dog in Krishna's service. And then devotees told, yes, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, no, we can't engage, will not engage dog in Krishna's service. I mean, Prabhupada wanted to basically check the devotees are applying their mind also or not. That's the mentality which is liked by our spiritual masters, that we apply our mind. Once in my marital life, uh, I got when I got married, no, I like no, I was in Calcutta, and my wife was from Belgaum. In 2009 we got married, and I got a very nice dowry, uh, in my marriage, and that dowry was association of His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj, uh, because he is from Belgaum. And I'm so happy, at one point of time I was like, no, one point of time I was thinking marriage, no marriage, because in youth forum, no, this question comes. So then, but after getting married and getting association of Bhakti Rasam Maharaj, I told it's a good decision, because I got association of Bhakti Rasam Maharaj. And finally, no, so since she was from Belgaum and they were very close to Maharaj, their whole family. I mean, she was in her 10th class. She used to go to Maharaj and show her mark sheet. No, this is what I scored and all these things. And I was like, not even. But since she got married to me and Maharaj, like, no, was concerned about her welfare, he intervened in my life, and it was so nice, it was so nice. Thankfully, Krishna's arrangement, I did some visfort also in the beginning of my marriage, which attracted his attention. So, uh, but once I understood his perspective about living life, it was very fulfilling. It was very, and we are going to discuss a lot of them in these verses, because a lot of them are relevant. It will become practically relevant for people like us who are working, who are having families, who are having like kids, and we are everywhere, and some like no, we are trying to focus on Krishna, we're trying to do a preaching, we love Krishna. So all these things, how it is going to happen together. So then one day, I stated one point to, of course I have two kids, by the way, huh? I have two kids, one is 11 years old, his name is Chaitanya, and the younger son is Yaduvar, but at that time, I was like very, you know uh, very uh, very much in that mode of preaching after marriage. And I was like, I don't want to go for kids, I don't want to go for kids, I'm like, no, I'll just go preach, marriage. So why did I get, no, I'll just marriage, and I'll preach, no, marry and preach, no, that kind of mentality was there somehow. And then Maharaj started explaining, no, as a grahastha, it's your duty to have kids, it's a duty to have kids. And then it started striking me that, no, yes, it makes sense, it will make me a more complete individual, uh, if I go for kids. But anyways, I told that, okay, Maharaj, if you say I'll go for kids, then no, that's not the way to do things. You should understand why it is good for you, and then you should do it. So sometimes we think it is pleasing to devotees or pleasing to guru, therefore I should just do it. But we should not mindlessly do things. We should try to understand why it is good for us. you know it is very good practice for us as sadhakas, and even when we are training our kids, it is very, very important. Sometimes uh, we may just want uh, things to happen because it saves time, for us to just keep on doing things. But there should be moments of reflection in our life: why I'm doing what I'm doing, where am I, where I want to be. Similarly, when we have dependents with us, we should have those moments of reflection and explaining things to them. So it's very important to use our good intelligence even in devotional realm. That's a lesson which we get from Parikshit Maharaj in this first section of the this purport. And then Prabhupada starts explaining that, no, the atonement, which this kind of atonement where one tries to do pious activities, is of no value, is of no use, is of no use at all. Why? Because one will again do that sinful activity. One will again, because you may get, let's say, freed from the reactions, or your reactions may get postponed of a particular sinful life or particular sinful action. But the tendency to do that sinning again is not removed at all. And by the way, the subtle point is that, no, why Krishna says aham tva sarva papebhyo mokhe shami ma shucha, is because a devotee tries to rectify his mentality of controlling and enjoying, and tries to adopt the mentality of serving. And when a devotee tries to do that, you don't need reactions actually, because the reactions are needed to actually rectify that mentality. But that process is very slow, so I do something wrong, somebody punishes me. The intention of that punishment is not just to, it is actually to rectify the mentality. Okay. So even fifth canto's hellish planets are also pure devotional service, because it is ultimately highlighting the fallacies of the life, of a life of a devotee, and he may be attracted by these tendencies. So we need to rectify those tendencies. Okay. And if one does act under those tendencies, there's a reaction. So that reaction is ultimately to rectify that mentality. But then Parikshit Maharaj says that for the people for whom it does work is for the people who have control on their mind and senses. For people who don't have control on their mind and senses, they will do the atonement only out of fear from removing the suffering of that sinful action. That's it. They'll not be interested to understand that again I will do that activity, and if I miss atoning it, I'll suffer for the same. So inevitably one suffers, because one may get that intelligence of doing atonement once, but not every time. Why? Because Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says modes of nature are fighting constantly amongst each other to take control of the living entity. Today we may have a particular mentality. You may have this practical realization also. Sometimes we get angry and we do something wrong. We say something wrong to someone, let's say in our house, and then we go and say sorry. Okay. Sometimes we foresee that we may say something wrong, therefore we may like no not say that particular thing. Sometimes we say wrong also, and we don't even realize what is our mistake, and we still continue. You see that, right? So we are always under the influence of mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. All these modes continue to impact us. So this idea of atoning or doing a pious activity or having a pious lifestyle is of no use, because ultimately the mentality is not getting rectified, and the mundane mentality will always be impacted by mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Just a second, I'll just close it. Sorry for this disturb. Actually, I'm not in my like no, I mean I'm basically based out of Pune, but I am currently in Delhi because my mother is undergoing a knee surgery. Okay, so it's successfully done. Okay, so therefore like no, there are some things happening like no sometimes in background. So you know, so sorry for this inconvenience. Okay. So that's the point. Okay. Uh, so one who is sinful, for that person is like no for one who is having no control over one mind and senses, is definitely going to commit sinning again and again. That's the conclusion. Eventually he's not going to stop, even if he by good intelligence sometimes, or by fear, or by like no this thing, he may try to atone that activity. That is of no use, because ultimately the mentality remains the same. The mind and senses are still not controlled. Okay. You see some people, I know somebody like, and you must be also knowing, there are some people who have severe liver issues. because of drinking liquor or smoking cigarette. But even with those liver issues, till the end they keep hiding themselves and keep drinking or keep smoking. Sometimes it's so difficult to leave that thing, although you see imminent death standing in front of you. Okay, so because the mind and senses are completely out of control, completely out of control. Okay, now why we are talking of this is, so then Parikshit Maharaj actually, before that, no, before we move to the other point, the point over here is, therefore Parikshit Maharaj says such atonement is like, and he gives an example of an elephant taking bath. Is like elephant taking bath. The person uh, who is not actually controlled his senses, controlled his mind, and he does an atonement, is nothing like, nothing more than elephant taking a bath. Okay, because what does elephant do? He is wrapped in mud, and then he moves into the lake, takes very nice bath, comes out with a shining skin, uh, and then again he rolls into the ground again. Okay, so but the problem of the current day and age is people are not even interested with atonement. Okay, people are just, it doesn't matter. That's another level. So there are different levels of people. There's some people who are like, and the Prabhupada gives those, three levels of people. There are some people who actually don't experience. Okay, they have been experienced also, but still they continue sinning. Okay, similarly all of us as souls, some souls, they have experience of sinning but again continue sinning. Okay, so actually a lot of us will fall into that category if you see from spiritual perspective. But yeah, definitely, we have picked up devotional life, which shows that there is a lot of sukriti. Then there are some people who are hearing and seeing but not improving, but by experiencing they improve, or by the fear of experience they improve. Okay, and then there are some people who see others and then they refrain themselves, but still it's not sure, but it's actually by hearing from the scriptures that the devotional service is being gifted in our heart and the ignorance is destroyed. That's why uh, devotional service is the supreme process, and hearing is actually the first process, not the seeing and the experiencing and all those things. Okay, so Parikshit Maharaj questions such kind of useless atonement which is devoid of controlling one's body and mind and senses. So vacho vegam, manasa krodh vegam. Okay, point is that if one is not tolerating these different vegas in the human form of life, one is definitely going to hell. Okay, and then verse says one who tolerates it perfectly becomes a spiritual master. And then there may be someone like us who want to make a good management of these vegas so that we can become stable devotees in Krishna consciousness. Okay, that's where it comes. Okay, so the control of mind and senses means we we basically are able to tolerate these vegas, and these vegas are only tolerated, as we see in Ajamila's episode, is by devotional service. That's a vivid example. Okay, uh, it's only by devotional service one is able to primarily chanting of the holy names of the Lord. That's why you see Prabhupada is again and again saying, uh, on chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Okay, and then Prabhupada makes this point, concludes this portion by stating that, we'll read this: a sinful activity cannot be counteracted by a pious activity. Thus, real prayashchit, atonement, is awakening of our dormant Krishna consciousness. Okay, which actually is done by performing devotional service. Okay, so active devotional service is the only way to control one's mind and senses. Why? Because by engaging in devotional service, our mind and senses get purified. When the mind and senses are purified, uh, then they become harmonious to our spiritual endeavors and existence, and so on and so forth. But when they are not purified, even though we may be fearful of certain reactions, even though we may not want to be, but still the passion and ignorance are so strong, they will pull us down and make us do that same activity again and again. Okay. So that's the beauty of this point of Prayashit. So real atonement involves coming to real knowledge, and for this there is a standard process. And then Prabhupada mentions the processes of devotional service. Now, devotional service, as now Prabhupada builds the whole, you know, uh, the point of devotional service, uh, because that's the basis, and he says it comprises of two things. There are certain prescriptions and there are certain prohibitions. The process of the fact that our mind and senses are contaminated means we are diseased. It means we are impacted by the modes of nature. So what we have to do is, Prabhupada, before we move to the next section is about actually discussing these different Vegas. In this paragraph of real atonement, if we see, Prabhupada mentions this point, and he gives an example of a recovery of a sick person. So he is being given some medicines and he is being given some prohibitions. Don't do this and do this, and follow the doctor. These are the three main directions given by the patients. Because if you are not following the doctor, you may want to, like I was like in the hospital. So there are sometimes some attendants and patients, they overdo certain things, and they sometimes there is some category of patients, they underdo certain things. Okay. So therefore, it is not just prescriptions, chanting, and four regulative principles. It is also the direction of doctor, which is very, very important for us. And that is what is, as Prabhupada mentions. However, if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a pure devotee, he can easily surpass all the practices for controlling the mind by the mystic yoga process simply by following the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness, refraining from illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, and by engaging in the service of Supreme Lord under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master. This easy process is being recommended by Rupa Goswami. So, three things: prohibitions, prescriptions, and direction from the spiritual master. So, to sum up, the it starts with a point of controlling minds and senses, and why one should control, because if one doesn't control, one goes to the hellish planets. And if even if one doesn't go to, like, if one tries to atone, that atonement is going to be just fake atonement, and eventually one will be dragged to hell. So it is very, very important. Therefore Prabhupada makes that point of in preface that in all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control one's mind and senses. So how does one control mind and senses? The only solution is devotional service. Okay. How do we engage in devotion service? First of all, we have to remember, I am a devotee. Okay. I am a devotee. I'm not a pure devotee, but I'm a practicing devotee. But I'm a practicing devotee. Okay. That ego is very important for us to remember, because ego leads to the intelligence opening in that direction, and intelligence being opened in that direction, the mind becomes suitably directed in that direction, and then the senses follow. So it all starts with that ego that I am a practicing devotee, I am a practicing Vaishnava. Okay. Okay. So let me do devotional service. Because I am a devotee, let me do devotional service. Let me engage myself in devotional service. That's my identity. So it's very important for us to reinforce our identity again and again to ourselves. It it's a daily practice. It has to be practiced again and again. uh, Pure devotees remind us through their Vani. Therefore, we say that no, we should be hearing Srila Prabhupada lectures regularly because he is reminding us constantly that I am practicing to become a. That's my only designation. There is no other identity I have. Now, various activities I do it as a devotee, maybe as a devotee husband, maybe as a devotee father, maybe as a devotee mother, maybe as a devotee wife. Uh, so there will be duties of wife, specifics of husband, specifics of son, specifics of father, specifics of a person who is working out. But ultimately, those specifics are um, used by us to please Krishna, to serve Him. Okay. So when we reinforce this identity, because that's a natural psychology, if I am clinging to an identity, I'll try to know, you know, fulfill it. I'll try to, to I'll try to complete it. Okay, you know. So this is the best identity to start off with. Let's have that mentality cleared. Let's have that meditation regularly happening within our lives, that I am a practicing devotee. Therefore, let me choose different activities what I am doing uh, in line with my identity. Okay, and you'll see that it becomes so easy to control our mind, so easy to control our senses when we do that. Remember that. Okay, when we remember that and engage ourselves regularly in devotional service, we should not think that devotional service is a tool to control our mind and senses. That's a wrong mentality. That's actually gyan mentality. Using devotional service to enjoy, that's karma mentality. But using devotional service to control mind and senses is a gyan mentality. We just want to engage in devotional service. That is pure devotional mentality. Automatically, things which we are supposed to get, we will get. Automatically, the mind and senses which have to be controlled will get controlled. That's the beauty of devotional service. Okay.
Can you repeat this, Prabhu? You should not use devotional service.
You should not use devotional service to as a tool to control mind and senses. Similarly, we should not use devotional service as a tool to enjoy in this world. Okay. This is called karma, that is called gyan. Okay. Pure devotional
Prabhuji,
services uh, freed for karma and gyan.
so Prabhuji, you mentioned we need to have the ego as a practitioner, devotee, and always memorize or do memorize ourselves that we are devotee. So that is like we are trying to use that devotional service as a tool to control our senses, right?
No, we don't want that.
Mhm,
We want, that's what nectar of instruction is taking us to. Ultimately, we want to have love of Krishna.
mhm,
Okay, what do we do? Let's say we become Mr. Clean, white, everything is so white,
mhm,
uh, freed from all sinful reactions, freed from all sinful tendencies. Then what? We know this philosophy. We know that as a soul, we have to be positively engaged. And not only that, we have also experienced that when we engage in Krishna's service favorably, trying to please devotees and Krishna, there is a sense of bliss which we have never experienced in our lives. So we want to permanently experience that bliss. We want to go deeper into that bliss. That is the goal of a devotee. We are not just, yes, we understand that as a devotee, we are not relying on any other method to control on our mind and senses, but we are just trying to focus ourselves in the direction of the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas who are guiding us, and engaging ourselves in the service, devotional service. And that is sufficient. We don't parallelly work, to, okay, today I'll sit and no control my this thing. Of course, we'll be having that. And that's what this whole point is, Vacho Vegam, Manaso Krodh Vegam. How we can, in a Krishna conscious way, okay, uh, control these different vegas, tolerate these different vegas, to ultimately do what? to ultimately serve Krishna. Okay, that's what we are going to gather. Making sense or no?
Krishna Prabhuji. Understood.
So the devotional service should be for pleasure of Krishna, and the bliss is a byproduct, no Prabhu? It's
Yes, it is like this, when a male and a female they are together, the male is enjoying and the female is trying to serve, but in that process, both of them they enjoy. That's what Prabhupada gives as an example. Similarly, when we are with Krishna, when we are serving him, uh, we are happy that Krishna is happy. That's our bliss. We are not separately trying to become blissful. Okay, I did devotional service for the pleasure of Krishna, got this much bliss, wow, I'm done. But this point is that no, the bliss in pleasing Krishna is the bliss we enjoy, and then Krishna gives us bliss. Okay, that's what happens. Okay, Krishna gives us bliss because you know what, when we do sinful action there is a reaction, uh, a sinful reaction. When there is a pious action, there is again a reaction which motivates us to remain pious. Okay, when there is sinful. But what is a reaction when we please Krishna?
bliss.
Love of Krishna. We get love of Krishna because you can only please someone if you love him. So Krishna gives his love. That love varies according to our level. In some cases he'll start purifying our tendencies. In some cases he'll start giving us, when we are done, give us more stability, give us more attachment to the process. But ultimately all this is form of love only. From Shraddha to Prema, everything is form of love. There is no difference actually. Okay, so that bliss of enjoying that love, that is a bliss we enjoy, right? In that loving devotional service to the Lord. So that's not a problem. It's not that Krishna is a sadistic God. He wants us to suffer and remain like grinning, beating our teeth because we are pleasing Krishna. We can't be happy. No, Krishna is happy when we are happy, and we are happy that Krishna is happy, and we are happy that all of us are happily serving Krishna. That's our state. That's our prayer to Lord, that no, we happily serve you, Lord. Okay, so that's not a problem.
Hare Krishna
Does that
Prabhu.
make sense?
Yes, Prabhu.
Making sense?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I
Yes.
have a question. So,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, mind, to control mind and senses, the only source is devotional practice. And
Yes.
again, you are saying we should not use that devotional practice as a tool to control mind and senses. So, how those both are interlinked? Prabhuji?
Yes, it's a mentality, because Gyanis also use this process sometimes, or mystic yogis use this process, but their goal is not that. You're getting the point. One is called means, the other is called end. Okay, what we are talking, control one's mind and senses, because we don't have controlled minds and senses. And hold on, as we move on, what we understand from Vacho Vegam, Krishna doesn't, or Rupa Goswami doesn't start saying you should do this. All he says is engage your speaking power in the service of Krishna. So he doesn't say that no, okay, you speak about this Krishna and then the speaking power is controlled and then you get something else. No, you do this and then it is being controlled, and then you get the bliss of devotional service. You get further revelations in pure devotional service, and that is definitely our goal. We want to have progressive realizations in pure devotional service. Definitely, as a soul we want that, right? So, but a point is, as a devotee we are not relying separately on the uh, on this gyan mentality. This is a gyan mentality, that I am using some aspects of devotional service to control my mind and senses alone. I'm so fed up with my mind and senses. Yes, that may be a starting point for us in devotional service, which is good, but that's not the ending point in devotional service for sure. Ending point in devotional services, or rather the point of developing our Krishna consciousnesses, uh, I am doing all this devotional service for pleasing Krishna. Automatically, uh, automatically our mind and senses get well. All of us have that experience. Since the time we picked up Krishna consciousness, we may have our own individual limitations, some bad habits, so many things. Did you You knew that by performing devotional service, people get rid of bad habits. But did you really chant for that? No, you chanted, and then you automatically got freed of that. So this is a fact that devotional service will control mind and senses, but it is also a fact that mind and senses is controlling is a byproduct of devotional service. Okay, okay, and we are not just doing it for, we are not discussing all these things to for that only. That's what Prabhupada says, becoming a Goswami and then a pure devotee. That's the goal of Nectar of Instruction. But point is that no, if our mind and senses are not controlled, how can we even perform devotional services in a fixed way? That's the problem.
So basically what Krishna said in second chapter 59 shloka, Vishayan Vinivardante Niraharas, basically.
Yes.
The same thing. Instead of controlling, try to engage in other devotional services.
Try to engage. Yeah.
And not to control, use the devotional service, that is a problem here.
Yeah.
That is,
Yes, and definitely we take shelter of bhakti when sometimes we do experience higher taste, but it will happen that we don't experience higher taste. Then what happens, Then we have to consciously, take shelter of holy names. Then we have to take shelter of. Sometimes we'll discuss these things in Atyahara Prayasascha also. Sometimes even, you know, uh, you know let's say the mind is too busy, too kind of flattering, fluttering. I'll give an example, and it's because it's not engaged, it is kind of going all over the place. And then sometimes you perform devotional service, it is not being controlled, uh, because mind is not getting focused over there also. All of you have experienced that point, right? Then sometimes what we do is, we engage our mind in reading, in understanding, in hearing. Sometimes even that doesn't work. Then we have to engage mind. Okay, I mean, go and do some, you know, go and do your job. Go do a job nicely. I mean, probably तुम job में अच्छे से काम नहीं कर रहे हो. Time तुम्हारा, तो your mind gets engaged. Okay, so it is devotee uses different levels. We'll discuss all those things. Okay, but when a devotee is even working outside, let's say, okay, it is not. Um, Outside the realm of devotional service. We should understand that point. That karma also is in the realm of bhakti for a devotee who is working outside. Okay. So, yes, param drishtva nivartate, definitely. But sometimes we have to consciously push ourselves to ensure that we don't fall into something, Uh, that also we have to take care. Because the next part of that verse says, while one experiences that higher taste, but the taste for the sense objects still remain, so that also still remain. Both these things continue, so this is a parallel process, parallel process. We are not zero or one. We are not zero or one for sure. We are somewhere in the middle, we're struggling sadhakas, but we know that the goal of my life is not to just become a controller of my mind and senses, but to engage those controlled mind and senses in devotional service. So we depend on devotional process to calm our mind down, but that is actually, sadhana bhakti, what we do to ultimately engage it and become render more pure form of devotional service. Okay, that's the point. So in that way, there is no fault in using, uh, or rather in or in that sense, no using devotional service by a devotee to control mind and sense, because he's ultimately using it to perform even purer form of devotional service to Lord. That's what he's trying to do ultimately, and not just settle down with a clean Mr. Clean mind and Mr. Clean senses. That's not what we are trying to do. Makes sense to you? But at the same time, it's very important for us to remember the sanctity and the purity of devotional service, the level of pure devotional service. We want to do that. Okay, we want to apply those pure devotional principles, because it's not that we'll one day become pure devotee. Okay, it's not that, no, 6th April 2027, no, let's say Lakshmikant Prabhu or Padma Mataji, you wake up and you'll become a pure devotee. No, you'll have like 4 hands, all those things. No, we have to keep applying these pure devotional principles more and more and more and more and more in our lives. Okay. And how to do that? That is the second and third verse in our Nectar of Instruction. But anyways, we'll stop here. We'll move to Vacho Vegam and all later. but I want to have more interactions and questions. Okay, so we have covered preface and the first section of verse 1. I'm sure we'll cover the verse 2, verse 1 completely next time, and verse 2 we'll try to see if we can give something, but we are very good on time. I think we are good on time. I have 10 hours. I want to spend a lot of time in interacting with all of you also, if you have any questions, etc. So please, whatever I like know, the questions we discussed, is it clear? Is it making sense to all of you or not?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
If there are any doubts, any discussions on these questions which were asked, please put across. Or if you have any other questions, please do ask.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Prajitanam.
Prabhuji, one thing I couldn't still understand, you gave the example of Ajamila regarding the atonement. So how is this linked, Prabhuji? I couldn't really link them. I mean, where is that atonement in
Yeah,
Ajamila story?
because yeah, that's a very good question. Ajamil, in fact, never invited Prashchita, but default his Prashchita happened, by default. Uh, so why we are talking of this of Ajamil is because he states his point of Ajamil performing a lot of sinful activities, and he performed. He had no control on his mind and senses. He different things. But before this Ajamil story started, Parikshit Maharaj was being told by Sukhdev Goswami that if one just continues doing pious activities,
No, Prabhuji video stuck.
he can and sincerely do pious activities,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, sorry, your video got completely cut, Prabhuji. I mean, your audio was also cut. We couldn't hear, Prabhuji. Can you please repeat?
for his sinful activities and just continue doing the opposite, because it was not addressing the sinful mentality. That was not being Dev Goswami. That I don't think none of you could hear me. Oh, none of you could hear me. Am I audible now or no?
It's better,
Now
Prabhuji,
we
but
got better,
earlier we could
Prabhuji.
not hear you.
Prabhuji, it was either too slow or too fast. It was like that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Just a second. Let me open the door. Yeah. So, is it okay now? Better?
Yeah.
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So the point is that no, Arvind Prabhu is that the point of Ajamil, why it came, is because, uh, as I told, sinful activities are the cause of our bondage, and Sukdev Goswami gave this response to Parikshit Maharaj when he heard in fifth canto, when he heard the various sinful, uh, hellish planets and suffering and so on and so forth. Then Sukdev Goswami, just as a matter of testing him, he told that guy, just do the opposite. No, this guy did a theft, or do the opposite, and that's called atonement. I mean, regret it and just do it. Just do the opposite. Give it in charity. Give it the money back to that person. Or give some more money. It'll be fine. But Parikshit Maharaj was not satisfied with that, because that atonement uh, is of no value, because one will again do that theft. Why? Chances are very high, because the mind and senses are not controlled. The sinful desire is not being rectified. The sinful mentality is not being rectified. Okay. So, how to do that? And then Sukdev Goswami starts with this story of Ajamila. And there he mentions this point that no, he was so sinful, he was so this, he was so that, and he was so this. But all he kept doing was, now that's a very extreme example. Okay, we should understand this example in right spirit. Okay, let's not imitate Ajamil also. that okay, because Ajamil did all the sinful activities, let me also continue sinning, and let me take my boy's name, no, whatever it may be, Krishna or Govinda, and just keep chanting that name and I'll be cool. No, but that's not going to happen, because we know that sinful actions can be rectified by holy name. Ajamil was not chanting with that mentality that my sinful activities are getting eradicated by the holy name. Therefore, holy name eradicated it. You getting my point? If somebody is chanting Hare Krishna and committing sinful activities, and Prabhupada mentions that point, it's an offensive chanting that will not lead to the reduction of sinful reactions at all. Okay. So Sukdev Goswami told that whole story of Ajamil, cut story short, that he kept on chanting the holy name of Narayan, but that is counted as devotional service because he was not chanting for freedom from his sinful reactions. He was just chanting for the sake of chanting. Therefore, though it was not Shuddhanam, which is directed towards Krishna, Narayan, it was not Namaparad as well. It was Namabhas. And therefore, Namabhas is very strong. It can rectify not just the sinful reaction, it can rectify the ignorance. Now one can think that no, Ajamil still continued sinning, although he was chanting the name of Narayan, he still continued sinning, he still continued doing all those things. Why he did that? And that is what, like no, I was telling that it was Lord's arrangement for him. Actually his sinful reactions were nullified then and there when he first chanted the holy name of Narayan without any expectations of freedom from his sinful reactions. It was just for the sake of chanting. Then he continued, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that his future sinning was more like a toothless snake biting, without any poison in the teeth. He was just doing. So actually, that whole thing was going on as a staged drama, so to say, uh, for that point to come where Vishnu Dutas instruct Yamadutas on this concept of religion and the glories of holy name. Now, why it is being discussed over here is that holy name which Ajamila chanted without even thinking, inadvertently, okay, without even pointing towards Krishna, could save him from sinful reactions and could. So how much a devotee who is actually chanting consciously in the direction of spiritual master, how much he will get benefited if he follows the process. So it is just to kind of like, let's say if I have to tell this person is so powerful, to explain that I'll say that no, okay, this person is so powerful, usne kya kiya, or he's so intelligent that no, or chat GPT, sometimes we say na, how chat GPT is so इंटेलिजेंट नो, अरे उसने तो यूपीएससी का एग्जाम क्लियर कर लिया, अभी तक किया नहीं है वैसे, बिकॉज वी डोंट हैव 2021 डेटा, बट it cleared the JEE exam no of 2020. So that becomes a benchmark. Similarly, devotional service, it liberated even Ajamila. Okay, just liberated. So what to talk of us? Okay, so since we are discussing of why we are discussing sinful life, because controlling of mind and senses, if not there, one will engage in sinful actions. So how to, and why we are so bothered of controlling of mind and senses, because sinful action will lead to sinful reactions which I'm going to suffer. So therefore I have to not do sinful action, which means I have to control my mind and senses. But how does that control happens? It happens best by devotional service. That's why this whole Ajamila's episode is there. That's why Prabhupada says real atonement happens by devotional service, because actually when Ajamil heard that conversation of Vishnu Dutas and Yamadutas, he immediately left everything and moved to Vrindavan. So his ignorance got destroyed. It was not that he was being forced, he was being put in jail, he was near. No, that desire didn't come to him then. That sinful desire didn't come to him. That mind and senses became absolutely purified for him. Okay. That's what.
Understood, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, but I still have one question.
Yeah.
Actually, Ajamila was taking the name of Narayan without any consciousness of Krishna, right, Prabhuji? He was just taking the name because his son's name is Krishna. But it was not really in the Krishna consciousness. He was chanting that or taking the name. So even still, he gets liberation, Prabhuji?
Yes, that's the power of holy name.
But
Because
Yeah, sorry, Prabhuji. So, but in that case, then
Because
if
he
we chant
didn't
like
have
that,
that mentality. Please understand, it's not only in chanting of the holy names. It's a very deep matter. He didn't have that mentality of I want to save myself from the sufferings. I am fearful of that. I'm doing accounting with Lord, debit and credit with the Lord. That mentality he didn't have. It's not about that. Please understand. It's not about that chanting and then no. It's overall that personality was not having that debit and credit mentality with Lord, accounting mentality with Lord.
Understood, Prabhuji.
That he was freed of. That's why Prabhupada, when he went to West, so many people picked up so heavily and nicely. Prabhupada's purity, definitely. He was just giving. He was absolutely oblivious to their external circumstances, their bodies and their backgrounds, their samskaras. That is Prabhupada's level. We think sometimes how Prabhupada was so successful because that was Prabhupada's level. He was actually not ignoring. He didn't even see the external frailties and external problems of a person. We saw that one of the verses in NOI where he says that no, one doesn't see pure devotee. Imagine such a pure devotee doesn't see even bodies. So Prabhupada was just compassionate on the soul. He was just seeing that soul struggling. It's easy for us to say and probably, but that holy name was being given in such a pure way to them, and they also received holy name not for the heck of, just accounting mentality with the Lord, that that smarta mentality, I'll do this and I'll get this in return, and all that calculations were not there in their mind. They just
Without
accept
any expectation.
with an open heart, with a faithful heart. And that's the mentality that's an important point in a Jamila's pastime. That's why, and that's a very good point, because unless we understand that, we cannot really understand uh, why I have to control, because our control of mind, senses, atyar, the central core theme is I am a devotee and I want to engage in devotional service and no other method. That's it. Just to give faith. That's why Prabhupada is talking about this point. Does that make sense now?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Any other point? Any other question? Is it clear? All clear? No clear? All clear means like, I hope it was.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. So, as you
Yes.
mentioned, Rupa Goswami is a direct, I don't know whether we can say incarnation of Rupa Manjari. She is the lead Sakhi of Lalita Sakhi, you mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Rupa Manjari incarnated as Rupa
Rupa
Goswami.
Goswami. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So we see no gopis, they are not even oblivious. They're oblivious to everything. We sometimes gopis are like no Vraj gopis. They are like no, they are so simple hearted, But the servant of the servant of the servant of that gopi came and gave so much of Brihat, all these granthas and all. So sometimes we think that no, that Madhurya, like no, all these gopis are very simple, But that's why it's told that Madhurya ras includes all the other rasas. It includes Shant ras, which means the glories of God is fully understood. It includes Dasya ras. It includes, Vatsalya ras. It includes everything, So just like the wife, understands the potential of the husband, yet out of the love for them, a very crude example, but she's not going to always honor the husband like no, even if you are a CEO of a company, no, you're not, he has come, the CEO has come, she'll come and say तुम मुझसे time क्यों नहीं spend करते हो, ये नहीं करते हो, वो नहीं करते, all those things. But that doesn't mean she doesn't understand his potential outside, but the love is so much that all these things don't matter so much. That's gopis, so I mean that's a very crude example for us. So that's Rupa Manjari. Okay, so they are assisting Lalita Devi in making some garland. some flower, and we think it's a very simple service, but the same Rupa Manjari comes and gives elaborate granthas to us. Any other question? Okay, I think 8:30. I don't want to shoot over time, but if there is any questions, we'll take it. I want to tell you a problem I have. Okay, if there are no questions, Monday when the session is there, I'm actually will be flying back from Delhi to Pune that time. It is like 5:40. I have to leave, and I'll be reaching by 7:38. So I was thinking of two options. One is we can do Monday early morning. It's like 6 to 8. Okay, I know one day of sacrifice of chanting, your maybe you have a vrata to complete your rounds before 8 or whatever is there. But if for one day you can manage, that was one option. Tuesday again, I have some important meetings in the evening blocked. My calendar is blocked, and Wednesday I am in Mumbai for some more meetings. So I was thinking if Monday morning we can spare, that is one option, or else we can do in Saturday, Sunday also, today, tomorrow, and day after, also as per whatever you all say. Okay. I'm sorry. No, we are opening the class and I'm seeking an adjustment. But like all of you, I'm also working. There are so many things happening. uh, uh, so I'm working with TCS. So, and I have a sales role. So I keep moving here and there sometimes. So
Prabhuji, can we do it if it is okay for everyone? Sunday evening, same time.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Sunday evening.
Sunday evening, I am good. I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Generally, we will have Satsang Prabhuji, but our Prabhuji is on Yatra. Our Siksha Guru is on Yatra.
I don't want to interfere in our local satsanga. Otherwise, I'll be like, no.
No, he is not available this Sunday.
I'll not be able to atone that sin, in any way.
No, Prabhuji, he is not available. Maybe we can use that time in Bhakti Shastri course.
Mataji,
I-
same time we have our Sunday evening.
That's why I was thinking of morning. I know evenings are too busy for devotees. I am also okay with 5 to 7. I'm okay with 4:30 to 6:30 also. We can start with NOI our day, and kids are also sleeping. We can have nice, fresh mind approach and all those things. I know. I mean, this is an exception, by the way. Only one exception I'm seeking.
Sunday. We'll keep you updated, Prabhuji. That's what Prabhuji.
Yeah. Because I want to finish off in 10 hours, and please, Anand Go Prabhu.
Maybe later you can take a vote, Dasraj Prabhu, and convey it to.
Sure, Prabhuji.
The other option would be that I elongate all the Monday, Friday session, but I honestly feel after 2 hours it becomes very difficult. After all, you
Tomorrow
also get
evening-
bored of seeing me. You can't do that.
If possible, tomorrow evening, Prabhuji, if it is okay for everyone.
I'm okay with everything except
Monday.
I am okay with Monday morning. Only thing is Monday evening I am unfortunately that is clashing exactly with my flight timing, so I can't do much about it.
So Prabhuji and Mataji, tomorrow evening, is it okay? Same time.
You can take a vote offline. I am sure that you will need some discussions and all those things, but I need your help in this, and please accept this one-off situation, and kindly forgive me for this inconvenience. It was
Prabhuji,
not
no problem, not at all, Prabhuji.
Okay.
We will discuss this internally. We'll come back on the alternate timing.
okay. Perfect. Okay, so thank you so much. So we will continue with our verse 1 and verse 2, and also please shoot offline questions if you have any. I'll just message my mail ID also and my number. If you have any questions, you can please WhatsApp me, or as an after reflection you can do. Okay, it has gone to the Saraj Prabhu only. I think I
Prabhuji, I
can't.
have one question.
Yes.
My question, I don't have much questions. Why I don't have questions?
why you don't have questions. Don't worry, Mataji. As long as you are clear in Krishna consciousness, you're good. You want to practice
No,
devotional life?
Prabhuji, like sometimes, yes, Prabhuji, I do 16 round, but many times I heard classes, I attend everything, but still I don't have questions. I don't know why.
Which is good. It's okay.
Yeah, but many people have so many questions. I don't know. Many times I ask this question, why do I don't have any questions?
No, it's perfectly fine, Mataji, as long as you're accepting the tenets of devotional service. It's fine not to have questions. Maybe you are just clear with everything. You're accepting it
No,
faithfully,
Prabhuji.
right?
Yeah, I'm accepting faithfully. That is fine, but I'm not clear, Prabhuji.
You're not clear. So what you are not clear about?
I that also I don't know.
Okay. So then what you should do is you should hear. Do you hear Srila Prabhupada lectures regularly?
I do, Prabhuji. I do
Regularly.
Gauranga Das Prabhuji also. Yes,
Srila Prabhupada lectures.
not much, Prabhuji.
You should hear Srila Prabhupada lectures.
Okay,
Uh, Srila Prabhupada will give you that appetite of questioning.
okay, fine.
It is by
So
Srila
means
Prabhupada's mercy.
like I heard the lectures means I am accepting everything. Whatever you say, whatever the other preachers say, I accept everything. That's why I don't have any questions or whether something is not going in my mind. That's why I don't have any questions.
That you can tell that what is happening exactly. But I'll tell you, the symptom is you should be able to connect with what is going on. Your heart should resonate.
Okay,
If my heart is not resonating, maybe I'm not able to connect with it. And when I'm not able to connect with it, there are two things which will happen. I'll get worried and ask questions. And the second thing is I given up on connection only. It's okay. The way things are going, let it continue. So I'll just continue like that. And that becomes a way of life.
second option I can say, Prabhuji. I
Yeah.
do
So
like
then,
that.
so then the point is that why I'm not able to connect. I'm
Okay,
not able to connect because still in my heart it's not very clear as to why I'm doing what I'm doing.
okay,
Still that bell is not ringing. And that happens by Prabhupada's mercy. So you to hear Prabhupada lecture. Prabhupada अंदर तक झंझोड़ देते हैं. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, we may think that no, Prabhupada is not joking. He's not telling some life tip. No, Prabhupada is telling the life tip. Prabhupada is telling the life tip, and that life tip is that no, and he literally he goes into our heart, penetrate, just open with an heart here, Srila Prabhupada.
okay, Prabhuji. We'll try.
And then once you have all those connection happening and then questioning coming and all, then you should read Srila Prabhupada books regularly also, because Prabhupada will start answering your questions through his books.
I read books, Prabhuji. I daily, we have Bhagavatam class daily. I do that also, but still, my think like, okay, whatever teacher told, that is true. I have to accept that. That's it.
No, it's not that. That's what I was telling you. I don't have to accept as somebody is saying. It should it should resonate with my heart. Spiritual life is about resonating with the heart. While it is, we say that no, we have the process of hearing, and no, we have to hear devotees, we are obedience, but it is not that. Dhruv Maharaj very clearly told Narad Muni, I'm not interested in the instructions you are giving. What you are saying is not making sense to me. Narad Muni told Dhruv Maharaj, you should practice tolerance. तुम्हारी माँ ने गाली दे भी दी, क्यों, क्या बड़ी बात हो गई, सहन कर लेते, इतनी क्या बड़ी बात हो गई, गोदी से तो उतरने को बोला, थोड़ा ना तुम मर गए, अपना जन्म ले लिया नया, कुछ वो क्या क्या, चलो भागो यहाँ से. ऐसा तो कुछ नहीं बोला उन्होंने. ऐसे बोला उन्होंने तो तुम जाओ वापस, क्या टेंशन है तुम्हारा. बोला कि what you are saying is not resonating with my heart. That's not my nature. So devotional service should resonate with each one of our hearts. ऐसा नहीं आपके लिए, सबके लिए. ये सब एक जो प्रोसेस है, padhne ka, studying Srila Prabhupada books, all these things can also take a form of ritual. This is very important ritual, it's for us, but it should lead to even greater integration of Krishna consciousness with our heart. And that will happen. पहले वो connection बने, वो आपको अंदर से एक भूख बने, नहीं हाँ ये हाँ समझ में आ गया मेरे को, ये करना है, right, this I have to do, then that works, Mataji. So here Srila Prabhupada lectures.
Sure, Prabhupada.
You hear this 1 week and then next Friday you tell us how did you feel, and you hear it for 10 minutes 15 minutes. You may have your own, you have kids, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
How old are they?
One son, 14-year-old.
One son, 14. So you have to give time to your family, kids and all those things, and know his studies and all. So I'm not saying that you have to just drown in proper lectures whole day, but you hear it for like 15 minutes morning, 15 minutes, like no, every day you hear 15 minutes you hear, and try to see what Prabhupada is saying. Okay.
Any specific lectures or any lecture, Prabhuji?
Bhagavad Gita. You
Bhagavad Gita.
You can read Bhagavad Gita 2nd chapter.
Okay. Prabhuji.
Very good lectures.
Okay.
I know Prabhupada, all lectures are good, but the 2nd chapter he talks of philosophy in a very nice way. Very nice way. If anybody is like no, and when you start hearing Prabhupada, you may feel that no, his accent is not making, you know, कई बार हम बोलते नहीं है मुंह पे, पर हमें लगता है कि अरे प्रभुपाद क्या बोल रहे हैं, accent वो थोड़ा बंगाली heavy accent है उनका. No, but just hold on. You hear what Prabhupada is saying. Just hear, and allow that words from Prabhupada to go in. You know, just allow. Just as if you are sitting in an operation theater, and you know you don't take the scissors from the hand of the doctor और अपने आप खुद नहीं काटने लग जाते ना. All you have to do is just sit in the operation theater. I mean, and lie down on the table, and then doctor will do his job. So Prabhupada will do his job.
Okay.
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions on having questions or not having questions, or questions about some questions? Thank you, Meenu Mataji, for such a nice, honest and frank conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji, because मेरा ये इतना ज़्यादा परेशान थी ना मैं कि मुझे क्वेश्चंस क्यों नहीं आते हैं.
It's okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure. Anyone else? Hare Krishna. Thank you. If after this also you are not having questions, means you have understood it. Okay, so that's fine. Don't worry then. Okay, anyone else? Yeah.
Any homework, Prabhu?
Homework, yes, very good. Very good. Very good question. You have to read the complete first verse and nicely, and memorize shloka 1, 2, 3.
Prabhuji,
Okay.
your voice was breaking, Prabhu. Can you repeat that?
Shloka 1, 2, 3, memorizing and reading the
Prabhuji,
purport of first verse. And
Prabhuji, once again, please repeat it.
Yeah.
Once again, please repeat it, because when you are saying your voice is breaking, Prabhuji.
Okay. I'm saying all these 3 verses memorizing. Vacho Vegam, Manaso Krodh Vegam. Okay. Or let's do this. Let's memorize verse number 1. Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodh Vegam. Okay. Then read the purport of Srila Prabhupada of text 1. That's second point. And third, go through the preface again and see if you have any questions. Come back to me on that. Yeah. Preface and whatever we have discussed, the first part. Okay. Any other points? Okay. Thank you. I hope my last part was audible, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all so much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.